Good morning, Blake. Here's your machine. This is the Breville Barista Express in black sesame. As you saw on the photos, it's in very good condition. This is actually one of my cleaner used machines that I've had in the last while. No issues at all. Fully serviced, pressure tested on the water side and the steam side to check for leaks and check the pressure. Grinder calibrated, all the cleaning cycles and processes done, and the machine presents and works like new. So it's very, very clean. So obviously it's a used machine, but it does have minor wear and tear on the front. Very little. And in this video I'll be making a coffee on it, so testing all the features from grinding to brewing to steaming and the hot water tap. So when I turn on the machine, I like to begin the session with a warm-up. So warming up the machine and the cup and the portafilter here in one go by running a blank shot. I like to do that before the coffee and even after the coffee. It sort of acts like a flush as well. If there's any coffee ground in the group head or in the portafilter, this will clean it. You can do that once or twice. We'll test the single button for you as well. There we go. You don't have to do the whole cup. Something is better than nothing, so I'm just going to do half of it. Drain the water. Now the portafilter is nice and warm. If you do this in conjunction with letting the machine sit for 10 minutes before you turn it on, so if I were to let it sit for 10 minutes before I do this with the handle locked in, and then do the warm-up blank shots, that's actually going to warm it up pretty hot, because the boiler is actually attached just over the portafilter, so all the heat from the boiler will dissipate into the portafilter as well as onto the top tray, so that gets warm as well. Not super hot, just warm. Once I've done the blank shot, I grab a tissue and dry the portafilter. We want it to be dry before we grind, so that it doesn't affect our shot. Your machine comes with I think 2 baskets, razor tool and portafilter, and the tamper. That's the basics of what you need to make coffee, really. This basket here is the 18-gram double shot basket. It's the single wall basket, which means it'll taste good and it'll be easy to clean compared to the pressurized baskets. But it does need to be dialed in better, and you need to focus on the settings. So you need to focus on getting the right dose and the right grind size. I'll probably make 1 or 2 coffees in this video just to get it in the right position, I guess, or in the right ballpark for what you should be getting. Add some beans. Usually most people would arrive at the right grind size by running a few coffees at different settings. So you would run it at, say, number 6. If it's too runny, you would go a bit finer, say number 4 for example. If number 6 is too slow and too it gives you very little amount of coffee, then you just go higher in grind size. Say you go 2 numbers higher to 8. Hopefully you don't have to do that much work today. I can usually tell if we're in the ballpark for espresso just by looking at the beans, but it's never 100% sure that a certain number will give you a certain speed. So different beans will actually behave differently. So if you use really good beans, you don't have to grind so fine. If you're using cheaper, older coffee, for example from the supermarket, most beans from the supermarket aren't great, and they tend to give you weaker espresso, so you have to grind finer for those to get good pressures and good extractions. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is I'll try to have a look at the grind size. This looks a little bit coarse, but we'll try it. It's not too bad. So if you grab some coffee and it looks like loose sand or loose gravel. That's very, not gravel, sorry, loose dirt, and it's very big particles, then obviously that's too large of a grind size. If the coffee looks closer to flour, very, very fine, that's too fine. It should be in the middle. I don't know how to describe it, but it's basically an experience thing. But you don't have to have experience. If you have a scale, which I do here, you can actually dial in the machine pretty quickly and pretty easily. So with a scale, to dial it in, you have to keep a few things consistent. Use the same beans when you're dialing in, of course. Don't change from brand to another as you're trying to figure out the settings for the machine. Keep your dose consistent. So this is an 18-gram basket. I'm going to dose exactly 18 grams. And keep your tamping and distribution consistent. And the only thing you change is the grind size. You can also keep the output consistent. So these buttons are programmable. You can change them to whatever length you'd like. Try to not get overwhelmed. We'll do one thing at a time. So we're going to get a scale, zero it, and then we'll grind 18 grams. You have single and double. Obviously double will give you double the quantity of a single, but I personally like to keep it on single and do it twice. That way I can control it a bit better, reduce the mess, etc. We're using grind size number 3. Let's see what happens. So that's the first dose. Not too bad. That's 8.8. Amazing. So this is at 12 o'clock position. That's going to give you between 8 and 9. We'll try that again. So this is the critical point of why I like doing the single twice. You can tamp it halfway and this will reduce the mess. If you grind the whole double quantity without tamping halfway, it might spill down the sides as you're taking it out. Not great. And that's the second dose. So see, almost no spill. That's the beauty of this procedure. 17.9. Couldn't have asked for anything better. So that's pretty much 18 grams. I'll keep it there. With my beans with this grind size, this is what I get on the 12 o'clock position. Keep in mind that if you change the grind size dramatically, so if I go to 6 or 8, it'll grind more because a larger grind size means there's less friction on the beans. If I grind finer all the way down to 1, this will mean that I'm getting less coffee because it's harder to grind finer on the motor. So hope that makes sense, but it shouldn't really matter. Once you arrive at the grind size, you shouldn't worry about changing them or even thinking about them if you use the same bean for the rest of your life. Before you press it with a tamper, just make sure it's nice and flat so that the pressures are even all around. And then just like that. Make sure you apply even pressure all around. And that's what it should look like. If you don't have a scale or if you're in a hurry, you can just look at the tamper depth. This silver part on the tamper should disappear when you have the right amount of coffee. So we have 18 grams in here and the silver part basically disappears. Should be flush with the rim. And about ½ centimeter from the edge. Also make sure to clean the edge for any coffee before you lock it in. Now I'm gonna get rid of this hot water and I'm gonna add some small amount of water from the hot water tap. Works fine, of course. So the hot water tap you can use for making long black Americano coffee. You can use it to brew tea bags. Surprise, surprise, I like to add sugar to my coffee, so I use this hot water to help the sugar dissolve. So if you like syrups or sweetener, add the sugar before the espresso so that it mixes nicely. all of it. So just like we measured the input, 18 grams, we'll measure the output. Should be double, so it should be 36 grams. And that should happen in about 30 seconds. So we make we select the grind size at 3. We kept this at 12 o'clock. We got 18 grams in there. The next two things are just to monitor how much comes out and how quickly it comes out. The ideal world recipe is 18 grams in, 36 grams out in 30 seconds. So we'll make a coffee now, and I'll stop it when it reaches 36 grams. And that's what this button does. It gives you volume, not time. It gives you a volume of water, which translates to coffee, obviously. But it's not the same with and without the coffee. So we'll test it with coffee. That's how you can be sure that it'll give you the same amount of coffee next time, more or less. This will give us, let's say 40 grams. I like to approximate. This will give us 40 grams, which should taste good. But what should also be considered is the length of time. So how long does that 40 gram take? Does it take 15 seconds, 10 seconds to give me the 40 gram shot? That's too quick. Does it take 1 minute to give me that 40 gram shot? Or 40 seconds even, 45 seconds? That's a long time. It should be about 20 to 30 seconds. Let's say 25 to make life simpler. 25 seconds to give me a 36 gram dose. If it's too runny, it's coming out very quickly, you'll notice that the pressure will be low, and you'll notice a little crema, and you'll notice it's sour. And we can fix that by grinding one number finer and trying again. Also, cheap old coffee will also be runny and give you low pressure, so keep that in mind. If you're getting low pressure, low crema, very fast shots, maybe your beans aren't fresh. On the other hand, if we make the coffee and the 40 gram dose takes, over 40 seconds, 45 a minute, then that's too slow, and we fix that by grinding larger. So 1 or 2 numbers larger should make it go quicker. So if you imagine water going through gravel versus water going through flour, 2 different things. So if you increase the grind size a little bit, it should reduce the pressure a little bit to a more reasonable thing and speed up the extraction. Right. So I'm going to calibrate the double button for you to give you that 35 to 40 gram dose. And we'll see how long it takes. Hopefully it shouldn't take too long. To program the button, you press program, then the button itself. I'm also going to time it on my scale. And let's see how long it takes to give us the double shot. Looks really good. It's about 20 seconds. Looks good, but I think we could have benefited from grinding one number finer. Let it drip. That's 38 grams. Amazing. So 38 grams in 20 seconds. A little bit too quick. Not dramatic. And I'll still drink this shot. Even if it's quicker than that, I'll still drink it. I don't like to waste coffee, especially if you're adding milk, if you're adding sugar. You don't need to throw coffee out into the bin unless you're really particular about the taste. So this is a good shot. Not the best shot because, like I said, if we grind finer, we should hopefully get that dose, which now the button will remember. Hopefully getting that dose in 25 seconds or 30 seconds. That's the ideal world recipe. Again, I'll remind you this, we live in the real world. We don't have to measure, we don't have to get the numbers exactly on the dot. It's more about the taste and the experience really, less so about the numbers, but the numbers are just a guide. Right, so that's a decent extraction. I will leave it there. I'm not going to make another coffee, namely because I think I've got it in the right ballpark for you, hopefully, so that when you get the machine, it shouldn't take you too many more tries to get the right shot. Maybe even you can use the machine as is and you could be happy with it, who knows. But yeah, it's on number 3, it's giving me this result. If you use the same beans, you'll get similar results. I'm using Cole's dark beans. Not the best bean. think the best supermarket bean is Aldi. That's the only really supermarket bean, two only supermarket beans that I would get. I can't speak this morning. The other better option really is to get your beans fresh right from the roaster. If you're in Melbourne, heaps of options here for roasters, so you shouldn't worry about that. So when you finish the espresso shot, just take out the portafilter and knock it off into a bin. See, the beauty of this is it's really easy to clean. I barely touched it and it fell out of the portafilter. Sometimes it even sticks to the top, so you just lock it in and do that and it'll unstick. After doing the shot, I also like to run a black shot, like I said, to flush the shower screen and to flush the portafilter, rather than having to take this all the way to the sink. There we go. What else? Oh, steam, of course. We have to turn this into a latte, so we have to add some milk. I'm using cold full cream cow's milk. Takes a few seconds to get to full pressure. Once it's done, turn it off. Position your jug sort of at an angle, near the edge and close to the surface. So for the first 10 seconds or so, I'm going to keep the tip of the wand close to the surface of the milk. Close to the surface meaning you get this sort of sound. And after 10 seconds, I raise the jug to eliminate that sound. That sound means you're injecting air into the milk, you're aerating it, giving it that smooth texture and more froth. If you hold it for too long, you'll get more froth. So we don't want too much froth for a latte, just a little bit. And then now, it's still spinning the milk, just not aerating it because the wand is deeper into the milk. And it's going to keep spinning until it's too hot to the touch, until I'll stop it. Be sure to give it a quick purge, just to clean the insides, and then the machine now will cool down. It'll go back to espresso mode. Very important to keep it clean. Grab a wet towel. Give it a good scrub. That's the only way to keep it clean. Tissues won't cut it. And the sooner you do this, the easier it is actually, because the milk will dry. It's very hot metal touching milk, so it's gonna pretty much stick on there forever if you don't clean it every day. Awesome. That's all done. So now what I'm doing is spinning the milk, spinning the jug to keep it mixed up. And if I have any big air bubbles, I'm just going to knock it on the counter to break those. Not great at latte art, but I'm sure you can do even better designs if you do a bit of practice. This is the coffee. And yeah, that's the Breville Barista Express. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Cheers.